I have no regrets. I will do this over and over and over again. It is based on the conviction of my spirit. It's based on my scholarship and the research I did. Not out of pride or arrogance, but that this court, being the apex court of the land, is not just a court of law and a court of equity, but it's also a court of policy, to make policy, to open up new vistas of law and in our jurisprudence. That was why the Supreme Court itself said in Ozekhome Motors Limited versus Adesanya that a lawyer should not be afraid to bring a case to the court and tell the Supreme Court to reverse itself or reverse its judgment, and that a counsel should be bold and courageous to do so. But in our own case, we were not even asking the Supreme Court for a revision of his judgment of 20th December 2019. We were telling the Supreme Court to give judicial imprimatur to that judgment, which said that APC had no candidate and that it was a case of illegality, and that time does not run against illegal matters or illegality or matters that are unlawful. We were merely telling the court to give effect to that their judgment. The judgment concerning Hope Uzodinma and Emeka Ihedioha delivered on 14th January 2020 did not bring about that issue of illegality. It was on the general elections. So it was this same court that held that Section 285 subsection 9 of the Constitution will not apply because the entire case was illegal. It is this same Supreme Court that has held in Peter Obi versus INEC that the tenure of office of Dr. Chris Ngige for 3 years, because it was illegal, would not be counted, and that Peter Obi's tenure will start on the 2nd of May 2007 because the tenure before him was illegal. So this court has made it clear again and again that when it comes to matters of illegality, the court will not assist a party to reap the fruits of illegality. So that is why I have no regrets in standing on my ground, on my feet, to argue this matter to conclusion. Earlier this year, I would do 2 or 3 matters, about 3 matters, when I felt that they were patently pre-election. This is not a pre-election matter. We were not asking, we are not appealing. There's no appeal before the Supreme Court. It is too well known, it's elementary, that the Supreme Court has 60 days from the date of judgment to deliver a judgment. So we were not appealing. We were rather telling the court to give legal imprimatur to its own judgment, which it had delivered. That is the word of difference. But the Supreme Court, being the apex of the law, has disagreed with me. And I've taken it in good faith. That is why I'm a scholar, I'm a lawyer, by God's grace, a professor of law. And tomorrow is another day. So we lawyers should continue to bring up these matters forward so as to allow the courts to open them up, open up new vistas. For example, when we finish argument, the Supreme Court said ruling. And they asked me jokingly, are you surprised that we are going to deliver a ruling? I said, my lord, sir, that means you saw the end from the beginning. Because we were just finishing argument. We thought the ruling will now be read, or will now be written. But the Supreme Court knows best. I cannot challenge or question their superiority of knowledge and of experience. So we continue to learn from them, the judiciary, and that is why I've always, and I continue to defend the judiciary as the last hope of the common man and common woman. When you disagree with them, you appeal. But the Supreme Court being the final court of the land, you cannot appeal against the ruling of today. So I thank them for their ruling. And I thank my legal team for the hard work we put in to dilate this aspect of the law, to open up new vistas, to define it jurisprudentially. I thank the Supreme Court of Nigeria.
Thank you,
yes,
sir.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is supposed to go. And how will you react to this ruling?
Yes, well, the Supreme Court awarded the cost of 40 million naira to be paid, particularly to the parties who filed processes, including INEC. The sum of 10 million naira was awarded in favor of INEC. Yes, and the reason for that is very simple, that the court has over the years determined this matter and has reiterated that if a judgment has been given for whatever reason, it cannot review it. And more so, by virtue of the fourth alteration, particularly section 285, subsection 7, the Supreme Court has 60 days within which to determine an appeal. These were judgments that were given in 2019 and 2020. And here you are asking the court to review it. You know, contrary to their contention that the judgment was, what they sought by the application is enforcement. It was actually a call on the court to review his decision, and the Supreme Court will never do that. It's only accidental slip that the court, by its rule, can really consider and correct in appropriate circumstances. The court has given a judgment in the case of Hope Uzodinma and Ihidioha that Hope Uzodinma was a validly nominated candidate of APC, contrary to what they are saying. And that was why the Supreme Court did not see any need going into the application and then decline jurisdiction.
Mr. Julius Abure. And for the next hour, we have quite a lot to talk about, beginning with the opposition coalition suggestion by the PDP. Mr. Julius Abure, welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thank you so much for having me on your program today.
Do you agree with the statement by Mr. Atiku? Is Nigeria sliding into a one-party state? And what are your thoughts on the coalition opposition? Is this something the Labour Party might consider?
Well, to a very large extent, I must concede to the fact that arising from the outcome of the 2023 general election, the elections held in Imo, Kogi, Bayelsa, and of course, the court cases and the pronouncement of the courts, if we are not careful, we may be sliding towards a one-party state and a one-party dictatorship. The signs are very visible, they are clear, and for me, there are genuine fears that is being expressed.
Well, is this some sort of coalition that you would be favorable to as a party?
Well, at this stage, we, as a party, we have not, we've not had a conversation around the topic. We have not taken a position as a political party as to whether we'll go into coalition or not. But personally, if that becomes the option to save the country and to save Nigeria, then why not? If it will save our democracy, if it will help us have better results, if it will put food on the table of Nigerians, if it will give us good governance, if it will enhance our institution to develop and grow, if that becomes the solution, why not? It is an option that we can look at.
The unity in your party, you know, the Labour Party really did fashion itself out to be, you know, that voice, especially for very young people. So I want to talk about some of the internal wranglings going on in your party. There's a lot of dissatisfaction. We've had people come on this program who've actually even said, oh, the national level says something, but there is a side of the Labour Party that seems not to be on the same page. Is everyone on the same page with the Labour Party? In the Labour Party, is everyone who claims to be a member of your party on the same page?
Well, a political party is a conglomeration of people. with diverse interests and diverse views. Obviously, it is difficult to get everybody to be on the same page in terms of the views of people. But I must say very clearly that Labour Party members who are passionate about the well-being of the party are on the same page with the leadership of the party. Obviously, we have some disgruntled people who are obviously no longer part of the party, who are singing different songs. But I believe very strongly that those who mean well for the party are united with the party. We are strong and indivisible. And I'm very sure that as we move towards reorganizing the party for the future, I believe very strongly that the party will be able to come together and make tremendous impact.
Maybe we should talk a bit about, the off-cycle elections. Recently in the nation's capital, we saw the candidate of your party, who ran for governor in Imo State, actually did a protest here in the nation's capital. Talk to us about your thoughts on these off-cycle elections and the outcome. Before the elections, you had, stated your concerns about security and how that would affect, voter turnout. And you had made complaints about voter intimidation, even intimidation of your party members, in parts of the country where these elections were to hold. Talk to us a bit about the outcome. How do you feel about the outcome of these elections?
Well, the outcome of these elections are one of the, I can say one of the worst elections that I've witnessed, where results were said to have been written even before the results were, even before voting. We also had issues of voters intimidation, voters harassment, vote buying, harassment of voters, and several other irregularities that were involved in the off-cycle election. And that again forces our position that we need a comprehensive electoral reform in the country. And that has been my position and the position of the party immediately after the 2023 general election. We feel very strongly that there should be a holistic and comprehensive review of the electoral process so that the yearnings and aspirations of people can truly be accommodated within the political space. And therefore, the outcome of the election in the 3 states is really, really unsatisfactory. And that's our position. We've stated that very, very clearly. And those, like you rightly put it, like you rightly said, we had earlier raised those concerns even before the election. The issue of security, the issue of voters turnout, voters harassment, voters intimidation, and all whatnot. Those were the genuine concerns that we raised before the election. And they equally played out in on election day. And there's no doubt that that equally affected the outcome of the election. We are highly embarrassed till now that you have within 21 days to file your election petition. As at today, or as at the time of protest that you refer to, we're yet to get the certified true copy of the results of those elections. And
that was actually what I was about to ask you. His demands, at the time when he went to the INEC office with the protesters, how far have things gone with those demands that he made?
As at today, I may not have feedback as at today, but as at the last time I reviewed the situation with the Cuba candidate, INEC was yet to release the certified true copies of those results. And we equally had the same challenge with the presidential election. It took us almost 15 days after the presidential election before we were able to get the certified true copies of the documents that we got. So it's part of the challenges that is an aspect that I think that we need a review of the Electoral Act and our processes. Even if you examine the Supreme Court judgment, all other evidence that we adduced through subpoena were excluded by the Supreme Court on the ground that it was not part of the election petition. But the challenge that you have is that it's difficult to get some of these certified true copies before you file your election petition. And so this again have affected the justice and outcomes of all the elections that we have, especially the general election. And I'm sure it will also affect the outcome of the off-cycle election. And that's why it is the position of our party today that we need a comprehensive review and reform of the electoral process. I feel that justice is not being done with our electoral process and electoral system.
I mean, that actually brings me to my next question. You know, with all of the things that are going on, it must be pretty demoralizing. You know, the reforms that you're asking for. Let's start with the electoral reforms. What kind of reforms are you referring to here?
Well, I think that we need to go back to, again, look at some aspects of the waste report, which was really
The waste report.
Yes, which I think had a lot of some solution to the challenges we have in the electoral process as of today. The Electoral Act, the Constitution, name it, will no doubt require a comprehensive review looking at the outcome of or the pronouncement of the court cases from the Supreme Court and down to all the tribunal, all the pronouncement that resulted in the outcome of the election that we have. We have to look at them, look at the electoral process itself, look at the use of beavers, and several other reforms that we need. It's a process that we need to comprehensively interrogate. We have to also look at the role of security agencies in election matters. Are they playing the role they are supposed to play? How can we do things differently? A whole lot. And that's why we said we require a comprehensive review of the electoral process. It's a process that we need to thoroughly interrogate moving forward in Nigeria.
Now let's take a look at the judicial reforms that you know we hear everyone talking about, and you have expressed some displeasure with the way a lot of the pronouncements have been made about your party in courts since the general elections, and of course with all that we have going on right now. Talk to us about what reforms you would like to see in the judiciary that could make your party feel more comfortable in the process.
I think that generally Nigerians themselves, including the judiciary, will need the reformation of their consciences and their orientation. Not reducing what I want to say now to the judiciary alone. There is general corruption in the country, and it's an aspect that we need to seriously look at as a way of our lives, because there's no doubt that it has affected our institution and general way of life. We must reform ourselves because change must begin with us. The issue of corruption, the issue of looking at the laws again in line with the lacuna that we found in the law as it relates to the pronouncement made by the court. We need to harmonize them. As it stands today, the law appears to be very uncertain in terms of as it relates to the electoral process.
When it comes to the elections, I want to find out from you, your presidential candidate in the 2023 general elections, Mr. Peter Obi, how is he? Are you in constant contact with him?
Yeah, constantly. We speak every day.
You know,
Is
he does have a reputation of changing parties. Do
is
you think he
is
will be the candidate for the Labour Party in the next general elections? Are you thinking that would be the case?
well, let me state categorically that Peter Obi, as of today, is the national leader of the party. I enjoyed working with him, and I will enjoy working with him again. We enjoy very close working relationship, and you saw that we were together in the campaign in Imo, Bayelsa, and even in Kogi. Right now, he's outside the country, and we recently held the NWC meeting together. And so we are bonded together and we are working together.
Well, you didn't quite answer my question. I'll get back to it shortly. But I wanted to find out, as a party, with the situation we have in our country and with the way things work out here, do you think that the Labour Party, with you as its chairman, do you think you're playing Nigeria's political game correctly? Or are you, as many people have accused you of, being a little idealistic?
Idealistic. Well, I wouldn't know what you mean, but I will answer it within the context of my understanding of your question. In Nigeria context, people do wrong things and say it's politics. People betray you and say it's politics. People steal money and say it's politics. People buy votes and say it's politics. So if that is the context with which you have asked that question, I will answer clearly that to that extent, you can say that we are idealistic. But I think that for me, we have not played politics correctly the way we should play it in Nigeria. I feel strongly that there must be some morality attached to politics. People believe that there should be, politics should not be played with morality. But I think that there must be some sort of morality in politics. And to that extent, we have the mission and vision to actually do things differently. And you agree that that played out in our participation in 2023 general election, right from the process of selection of candidates, through the campaigns, and all our activities throughout the campaign became very clear that we wanted to do things differently. And therefore, I'm determined to continue in that crusade because I feel very strongly that we should play politics differently from the way we used to play it. A lot of political parties have no party internal democracy, and it is our intention to play it differently. So if all of this is what you refer to as being idealistic, I will concede to it. Probably when you put it in the proper context, we'll be able to answer properly. But I think that we need to play politics differently. Today, people win to the National Assembly platform of a political party and also lead the party to defect to another political party. I don't think that we should move from one party to another party, which has become a tradition of a major politician. So some of this trajectory is what we as a party is determined to change. So, and I'm sure that that's what you refer to as being identity. If that's what you mean, I can say that you are correct.
Well, you're absolutely correct. That is what I mean. When people look at politics in Nigeria, it's easy to look at what should be, but then there is what is, and it's very refreshing to hear a politician talk about how we need to do things differently. We need to, change the way this game is done. It shouldn't be so dirty and immoral. But until that change comes, you're just going to, at least listening to you explain yourself right now, as a party, you're just going to remain this, what you've fashioned out to be a voice of morality or the voice of reason or the voice of doing things right. But you do understand that you are in a contest, and you're in a contest with people who do not adhere to those rules. you know, until the reforms that are necessary to ensure that your school of thought and your belief system gets you the power that you want. Should you still be playing the game this way?
The truth is that a journey of 1,000 miles definitely will begin with a step. We can't say that because there are challenges or that because the pole is doing the wrong thing, that we should all get involved in doing what is wrong. Apparently, that is why the country is actually in a mess today, where people go to offices and instead of using public office to satisfy and meet the public goods, it is used to amass personal wealth for themselves and enhance their own family and even reach their families yet unborn. And for me, we need to start this journey of reorientation and changing our beliefs. For me as a person, I think is the right way to go. We all cannot continue to do things in the manner in which we do things. People are suffering, people are hungry, there are no jobs, people are not unemployed, there's hungry in land, people are suffering in the midst of plenty. Obviously, that trajectory cannot continue. And whatever sacrifice it will take us to make in order to see that things are done rightly, things are done properly, I think it is worth the sacrifices that should be made for our own country. And I want to believe that that was why a lot of Nigerians, young people, old people, follow the Labour Party. You will agree with me that what happened in the 2020 general election, the massive support that we got, wouldn't have never happened in Nigeria, and probably because of what we stand for, our beliefs, and people believe that we do things rightly. And I'm sure that all through the processes of the campaign, we showed that we can truly be an alternative political party. And so for me, there's no regret at all. I'm willing and ready to continue in that trajectory until we get majority of Nigerians to believe that this is the right way to go. If we have treaded on the path for 22 years of our recent democracy, and it has taken us and led us to poverty, to hunger, to unemployment, and deprivation of the people, I think that we should do things different. And I'm an advocate of that. And Labour Party is solidly along that trajectory. And I believe that Nigerians generally believes in the philosophy, the ideology, and the program of the party. That's why they came out overwhelmingly to support the party. For the first time in the history of politics in Nigeria, people spent their money, people defended their votes to a very large extent, and the change will gradually come. I believe so very, very, very strongly. And they may have delayed the victory for a while, but I think that they can never stop it.